When you look back at Arcane Austin's history, the studio behind Prey, it feels like that game was lightning in a bottle. Prey is a bold, deeply creative immersive sim that really encapsulates what the studio was capable of. It's a game that constantly comes up in conversation as not only one of the finest examples of the immersive sim, it's often regarded as one of the most underrated games of the past decade. And that's why playing it today feels bittersweet. After the embarrassing and very public implosion that was Redfall, the studio was shut down in 2024, so we'll never get to see how they might have expanded on it. Prey originally came out for the PS4, Xbox and PC. It received a number of post-launch updates that improved how it plays, including a highly rated expansion. So in this video, I'm going to discuss how Prey has evolved over the years, the updates, the changes, and why now it deserves your attention, especially if you missed it the first time. Okay, before we get started, I need to address the title of this video. For those who've already played Prey, your answer is most likely going to be, yes, it was always worth it, it's one of the best games ever made. And while I don't disagree, what I want to answer in this video is if there have been any interesting developments since it did the critical rounds back in 2017, and whether or not the argument for playing it today is stronger than it was before. Re-Review Worth It Now is also the name of this series of videos, where I revisit games long after launch to see if they've changed. Whether it be updates that fix bugs, expansions that fundamentally change the experience, or ports that breathe new life into them. With Prey, it's the last one. The game ran well enough at launch, although there are now better ways to play it, particularly on console. Regarding spoilers, I don't think anything here is a spoiler, mainly because you need context to understand what any of what I've chosen to include means. If you want to completely avoid spoilers, then the TLDR is that the game is spectacular and that you should play it. Lastly, I'm not going to cover the expansion Moon Crash beyond what it is and how it relates to the base game. In other words, it'll be brief and spoiler-free. If I'm being honest, it probably needs its own video, which is not me committing to anything, I'm just saying. Now, usually I cover the updates with moderate detail. A few do stand out, for example the new modes or the removal of Denuvu, but there are three that I think are especially relevant to this video. The first of these updates was one of the later ones. It added a new Game Plus mode, giving you even more reasons to play through the game again. Given how much agency the game affords, that's a very attractive prospect. As I mentioned earlier, the game received an expansion called Moon Crash, a roguelike experience that builds on Prey's core mechanics. It has a new location, new characters, it expands on the lore, and by most accounts, it's exceptional. It isn't a true standalone game since you need to own a copy of the base game to play it, because commerce I guess, but it offers a fresh, replayable experience that feels different enough to feel like a new game. The most important update as far as playing the game on console in my opinion are the patches for the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X. These patches improve visuals with things like better quality textures, shadows and reflections. Display resolution was boosted, especially on Xbox, where it can run at up to 1440p. This brings it more in line with the PC version and somewhat remedies the laggy controls, which were a common complaint on both the base PS4 and Xbox One. Series X and S benefit from this patch too, which I'll get into later when I talk about how best to play it.
There's supposed to be a process that brings you back up to speed between test runs, but someone could just skip that part, turn a single day into your entire life. Well, that's exactly what Alex did. The question is, why? You're not going to like what I have to say next.
For those of you who are worried that this might be another Deathloop or Redfall, don't stress. It shares very little in common. Straight out of the gate, you have way more agency. If immersive sim is what you're after, you'll get it here. There are a massive number of ways to approach each scenario, and the sandbox is constantly providing incentive to get creative. If you want to sneak around and find non-conventional routes, that's an option, so is guns blazing, so long as you've sunk enough neuromods, which are the game's skill points, into the right skill tree. It's sprawling in its scope too. Not only can you tackle each scenario in different ways, but environments are cleverly designed to facilitate organic discovery. This often diverts your attention and leads you in a different direction to what you had originally planned, and it does this in a way that doesn't feel obviously signposted. Like in Grand Theft Auto, it's clear when something is a side quest. Characters or events are presented just off the beaten path, usually quite literally. Here, the delineation between main objectives and side quests is far more blurred, and this makes Prey feel immersive in a way that few other games I've played have managed. There are an enormous amount of things to do outside of the main quest. They're completely optional, but completing them often rewards you with valuable items or stuff like access to skill upgrade paths. Sometimes they can alter future events too. Speaking of optional, there's supplementary text to read littered all over the place. I didn't find this to be a chore like in Deathloop though. Most of it is brief, well written, and displayed in creative formats that are contextually appropriate. The skill tree offers an absurd amount of control over how the game is played. It lets you customize your abilities and unlock new skills, which in turn changes what you can interact with, how the world interacts with you, and ultimately alters your experience. You can go through the game purely as a straightforward FPS, or play as a stealth simulation, or even embrace the alien psi powers for a more supernatural playthrough. The number of ways you can approach Prey is huge, making it a very attractive game to play through multiple times, and I think this is what makes it worth playing even more so today. More and more we're seeing studios take fewer risks, and I think the immersive sim genre has been hit hard by this. It's already a niche space and not the most accessible genre, and for many fans that's exactly what makes it appealing. Immersive sims haven't vanished, but studios are definitely watering them down to reach a broader audience. Take Indiana Jones and the Great Circle for example. It's not a classic immersive sim, and that's kind of my point. It had to be packaged and marketed as an action-adventure game first. Sure, the game offers multiple approaches and plenty of skills to explore, but to unlock the good stuff you end up grinding through a ton of side activities. You can ignore them, but then you're basically stuck, scraping by with the bare minimum tools. Prey has loads of side content too, arguably even more, but the key difference is that none of it feels required. The game rewards you for exploring without punishing you if you don't. You can still go deep into a specific skill path by sticking mostly to the main story, you just need to be a bit smart with how you spend your neuromods. I haven't had my mind blown by a game like this since I played Portal 2. It frequently forces you to think laterally. I lost count of how many times I found myself stuck where there was no obvious way to move forward and I had to improvise. For example, there was this one enormous room where I needed to reach the top, but every grav shaft and staircase was busted, and I didn't have any repair kits. So instead, I climbed a network of pipes and used my glue cannon to leap to ledges that were just barely in reach. It didn't feel like the official way up, but it worked. And the best part is that my solution was probably just one of many viable ways to escape that room. Prey remains one of the best examples of balancing things to do, skills to unlock, and playstyles to experiment with. It introduces new mechanics at a near perfect pace, while giving you the freedom to speed up or slow down as much as you want. For that reason, I think it's just as forward-thinking now as it was nearly a decade ago. For the most part, Prey holds up visually due to a combination of solid technical performance and smart level design. Audio design is also superb, utilising a mixture of atmospheric music and environmental sound effects that give the Talos an otherworldly quality. On the older consoles, some of its luster is lost due to a few technical issues. On the PS4 it's 1080p, whereas on the Xbox One it's 900p, which ain't bad. Both target 30 frames per second, and unfortunately both suffer from some laggy controls. But unless you're a performance and resolution snob like me, they're perfectly playable. I've already discussed the benefit of playing on the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X, but additionally, Series X and S get Auto HDR, and they run at a near flawless 60 frames per second. Both systems, along with the PS5 and PS5 Pro, also enjoy much faster loading times. As of 2025, I reckon Series X is the best way to play it on console. PS5 is marginally better than the PS4 Pro, although only when it comes to things like load times. This also means that there's no additional benefit to playing it on the PS5 Pro, aside from, again, some slightly faster load times. It probably goes without saying that PC is the ultimate way to play it in regards to presentation, performance, and options. You could argue it's the best controlling platform too, simply because many of the interactions feel less precise than they should on a controller. My understanding is that the PC was the lead development platform, or at least the platform front of mind during its creation. Now, you can still buy it on all platforms, but obtaining a physical disc is easily the most affordable. I picked up a copy in excellent condition for Xbox for $7.88 Australian. Alternatively, there's a trial version on Steam, Xbox and PlayStation if you want to give it a go first.
My name's Aaron. Aaron Ingram. Hey. What are you reading? Hey, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! Just what the hell are you doing?
Prey holds up extremely well, both in its gameplay and presentation. It stands as a high watermark for the genre, and it's an excellent way to experience the immersive sim if you haven't already. Almost 10 years on from launch, there are many more ways to play it, with various improvements that make it look and run better, especially for console players. And if that's your preference, I can vouch for the Xbox version via backwards compatibility on Series X. I think Prey is an outstanding game, mechanically, narratively, creatively, and it's something I'm likely to keep coming back to. This very much lives up to the hype, and I strongly recommend you make time to play it.